Hey everyone, it's Holly again at the Crafty Attic, and I've got a new project to share with you. So these are the gallon size, I believe it's a gallon, of the Pendleton whiskey bottles. And these have the indents, making them easier to grab, I guess. I wasn't sure how I was going to work around that, but I figured it out. So these I want to put lights in, like Christmas lights. And so I had to learn how to drill the holes. These will be the lights that you can plug into an outlet. And I purchased strings of 20. I read somewhere that that's about the most you can get into one of these bottles. So what you will need to do that with, I bought this glass drill bit. It's a Diamond Max drill bit. And it's a little difficult if you have a vise. Makes it much easier. You can put your bottle in the vise so it's not jumping around on you. But if you just search YouTube, there's lots of videos on there to show you how to do this. It took me a few bottles. I ruined a couple to get it right. And this is the 1/2 inch bit. I made the mistake of buying the 1 inch on the first go around, and the hole was just way too big. So I would definitely recommend the 1/2 inch. And as far as the paint goes, so this one is the bottle I'll be working on, and as you can see, it's not the chalky finish like I usually like to do. It has a little bit of it's actually satin, but I'm experimenting with this Rust-Oleum 2x Ultra Cover. It has the paint and primer in it. This is the Heirloom White. The chalk paint, the Krylon has become difficult to get, and it's quite expensive if you don't get it on sale. This is, I believe this can was $4 in Walmart, as opposed to probably 10, I think is what I paid for the last can of the Krylon Chalky. And actually it worked quite well, so I think this is probably what I'll start using on some of my projects. There's a range of colors as well. So this is one that I just finished. And I'm working on fall. I know it's hard to think about right now. Summer's just getting here, but with an Etsy shop, you have to think ahead. So the matte varnish that I finished the bottle with takes away from the satin, unless you like the satin. That really helped tone it down. So anyway, go ahead and get started. I want to get a ribbon to tie around the neck, and of course the lights I haven't put in yet. But all the ribbon I have doesn't match real well, so I'm going to have to order some. Okay, so on the front of this bottle, I've already prepped this napkin. I've peeled the layers and used my water pen. This is just water in here. The watercolor artists use these, I guess, to blend with. So that's ready to go, and this I plan to put on the back side of the bottle. And the plies I've started to peel. Sometimes they're a little difficult. This one was really stuck for some reason. I guess it's just the way they're made. This was a 3-ply napkin. There's 2 plies on this side, and this is what we'll be working with. And I'll just show you this one more time for those that maybe haven't seen it. So on this napkin, I feel like the words I want on the front side of the bottle with this. So I'm just going to separate the words from the rest of it and patch it together on the bottle. Okay, and then we want to go around and tear the edges on this so it will blend in with the paint and you won't have a straight edge. It actually becomes part of the bottle if you do it right. You can't really tell that it was a napkin. You don't see any of the edges. The colors just kind of mesh in with the paint. And I just happened to grab a piece of napkin that has the, well, it looks like the copyright printed on it. Normally I wouldn't use that, but since we've already started on it, it'll be okay. I'll just use this one to save time for the video. Okay, so that piece is pretty much ready for the back side. And we want to do the same with the words. And I set it right in the water. If you've tried these, you know they're pretty delicate at this point. So you have to be careful when you tear or you'll lose more than you wanted to. Okay, so this is the back side of the bottle with the hole. We'll do the front side first. And the Mod Podge I pour into a canning jar. That way you're not drying out the whole bottle. And these seal quite well, so. And I use a sponge brush, which has already been used on several projects. And you want to decide where you want this on your bottle. Working around the indents on the side. The last one I did, I kind of wrapped around into there and I really liked the way it turned out. So maybe we'll go a little lower with this one since we're having words at the top. And that should leave us enough room. I'll definitely get it centered. That's the mistake I've made on a few. I get it on there and it's lopsided, so and there's not much you can do about it once it's on there. So just take a minute and make sure it's where you want it to be. And as I've mentioned before, I add just a little bit of water to the Mod Podge. I just like the consistency better. It spreads easier. I always start in the center and work my way out. You just use a light tap. That's enough pressure to get it started so that you don't tear it, because if you push down, you will make a hole. Okay. Finish this side, and just a little bit of Mod Podge will do. If you get too much, that can be a disaster as well. Just enough to cover the area and your edges. That's real important to get the edges down. This extra here, I use just a wet paper towel to wipe off the excess, because when it dries, you can kind of still see it. Okay, let's get this other side. This napkin, I'm thinking I bought from Hobby Lobby. I ended up with a whole package of them, so I have definitely got to find some projects I can use this with. I prefer to buy just singles, because you know on one napkin you can get there's 4 sections to a napkin. You can usually get 4 designs. Some of them aren't that way, but most of them I have are. Sometimes that's enough. You don't want to burn out on the same design over and over again. You could join the napkin swaps that I've seen on Facebook. I might have to do that because I have quite an excess of the same napkins on several prints. So unless you find somebody locally that does it too, you could trade with them, I guess. I don't think I got any underneath down here, nope. And we're going to put Mod Podge on top. Not everyone does that, but I like the way it seals it. And you just get extra protection with that. You can still see bubbles here and there, but this top coat will take care of that. So you want to completely cover the area. And a little bit goes a long ways with this too. You get too much and then you're going to get some bubbles, and that can cause some problems. If you get too big of bubbles, you can't get rid of them. I like to use the disposable sponge brushes because the Mod Podge I found is really hard to get out of a regular brush. Well, it's like glue, so you tend to destroy a brush real quick. Make sure all your edges are covered. This is where I use the Saran Wrap. Buy the cheapest brand you can find for this. Lay this over the top, makes it easy to work the wrinkles and the bubbles out if you have any. Once you get that on there, you can press, and a few wrinkles I don't think are bad. I have to keep in mind these are homemade and they're not going to be perfect. It gives them character, I think. So this one worked out pretty well. I think we're ready to peel it off. You just start with one side and just go slow. You don't have to rip it off or you'll lose part of your napkin. And again, this is where I use the wet paper towel. I don't know if you saw this lift as I pulled it. That will lay it back down. And you can wipe off the extra Mod Podge as you go. And any bubbles you see, just use this to push and they work right out. See right here I have a little bit of a tear. And as long as it's still wet, you can move the napkin, cover it up, and no one will ever know. Only you. Okay, so well, I guess we can move on to the words. So let it dry and do the back, but since we're on the same side, I'll set this up and decide where I want to put them. When you're working with words, it's hard to get it straight. I always tend to lean to one side or the other. I must have a crooked eye, maybe. I think that's pretty close. Really, it's just like working with tissue paper. That's how delicate it is. Each napkin seems to be different brands. This one on real easy, this one not so much. And put the top coat on. I mix and match a lot of napkins. I just look for things that, like the plaid bow, somewhat matches the plaid pumpkin for the piece for the back side, and that's kind of how I put things together. And you can either use that same piece of saran wrap. Just because this is so delicate, I'm going to get a clean piece. And we have a few lifters here. Use your paper towel, wet paper towel, to push them back down. Right here, it looks like we've got a little bit from the design that I ripped off of here. You kind of want to watch for that. There's a lot of Facebook groups. If you just search Mod Podge, there's one particular one. I can't exactly remember the name of it, but It is really fun to watch different people's style. Seems like everybody has their own style, take on things. No two are alike. Okay, so this looks pretty good. A few spots down here I'm not happy with, so I'm going to try to pull them off here. And you can fuss with this all day if you want to, if you've got time. I'm my own worst critic, and I could spend hours doing this, but sometimes less is more, you know what I mean? And I just pulled a little piece of the G. Probably best to just leave it here. So as soon as this is dry, I'll flip it over and do the back side. In the meantime, I'm going to put my brush in a baggie so it doesn't dry out. And this lid on. And I'll be back to show you the rest. So that's pretty much dried. I did take a blow dryer to it just to make sure, because I don't want to mess it up while I'm working on the other side. This is a cheaper napkin. I can tell just working with it, it curls and rolls and didn't go on so nicely, the word part of it. So it does pay to maybe buy the little more expensive napkins. Okay, so we're pretty much done with that part, and next I'm going to do the spackling. As I've said before, that really hides a multitude of mistakes and ties everything together, gives it a finished look. It's messy, but worth it. Okay, so I use, for spackling, you can use any brand of acrylic paint. I prefer gray. This is dark gray, zinc is what it's called. I just pour a little bit on a plate, add some water, and just a regular toothbrush, soft, maybe medium bristle if you like bigger spots. And mix it up a little bit. And I use a glove just because it's easier cleanup. And again, you'll want to have a wet paper towel to catch any drips or mistakes. Now's the time to get them. And I think everything's dry enough. I'm going to go ahead and lay it down. It takes a little bit to get the paint worked up to the top of the bristles where you want it to be, and then just a fine splatter wherever you want. I like to add a little bit to the background of the napkin, like between the letters. Just makes it more, makes it become part of the design. Couple bigger spots here. So the paint is dry, and this is where I put the Duraclear matte varnish, and I usually do 2 coats. It dries quick and there's no smell, so that's why I use that one. You can use a spray if you have, where you can do it outside. And I just put a coat over the entire bottle, napkins and all. Okay, that's pretty much it. I will get some kind of a ribbon to tie around the top and add the lights, and it will be complete. So thanks again for joining me for this tutorial. Be sure and hit the like button and subscribe to my channel so you'll see future tutorials that I might do. Thanks everybody.